Peace. This is Hip Hop Album Review Part 26. Let's get started with the new album for today. It is Gang Starr's sixth and final album, The Ownerz, released in 2003. What can I say? It left off right off from Moment of Truth. This was 5 years later after the Moment of Truth. Dope album, by the way. I said it's the sixth and final album. Singles I was known for is Skills, Right Where You Stand featuring Gravediggaz, Nice Girl, Wrong Place, and The Ownerz. So it was like 4 singles. I mean, this album, when this album first came out, it was like a breath of fresh air because in 2003, I remember like, you know, people like, you know, Fabulous was like running the charts, like the, you know, people like Fab and like cats like, you know, the whole Rockefeller, you know, like Jay-Z was just like doing all that commercial bullshit, but then just to hear this was like a breath of fresh air, you know what I mean? I remember the song Who Got Guns was like a big hit in New York, like, you know, I remember hearing cats in the car just blasting that shit in their cars, you know what I mean? They broke up a year later, reason being, from what I've heard, is like, you know, it was like money issues, like they had beef with, you know, they had, you know, I guess like, from what I've heard, like DJ Premier and Guru, they had a little falling out and stuff like that, you know, they had beef with, and I remember watching the interview with Primo, he was saying that, the record label he was with, Virgin Records, EMI Records, like, they wasn't supporting Gang Starr, you know, they wasn't really fucking with them like that, they didn't really take them seriously, and that led to all of that, so that's why this is like the last time they ever came out with, and you guys already know that Guru passed away in 2010, God rest his soul, we love you, we miss you, to me he's like one of the best MCs, touch the mic, had a unique voice, unique flow, his monotone, you know, that's unmatched today, you know what I mean? But anyways, if you're a fan of Gang Starr, Primo Tracks, this is Gang Starr The Ownerz, released in the 2003 Must Have You collection. We got the Beatminerz, Brace for Impak, released in 2001. For those who don't know who the Beatminerz are, they're a hip-hop production crew from Brooklyn, New York, which consists of 5 members. Well, it started with 2. You guys should know Mr. Wall, Evil D, you know, they did, they produced the whole, you know, Enter the Stage, you know, The Shining and all that stuff. But, neighborhood friends of theirs, like Baby Paul, Rich Black, and Chocolate Tide joined forces, and we got this album. But throughout the whole 90s, even though Baby Paul, Rich Black, and Chocolate Tide were part of Beatminerz, but they kind of like did their own thing. Like, you know, Baby Paul, he was doing like, he was producing for other artists as well as Rich Black and Chocolate Tide too. You know, like Rich Black, he would produce for people like Finster Bundy, you know, Pitch Black and people like that. Baby Paul, you know, with other artists, like he produced for like for Heltah Skeltah, you know, Original Gun Clappers and things of that nature. But and then, you know, throughout the whole 90s, and then 2001 they released this album. Solid album. If you like the Beatminerz, if you like their production, you would definitely enjoy this album. The beats are not as dark as the stuff they did back in the 90s, but if you appreciate Duck Down hip hop from the Duck Down camp, you would definitely enjoy this album. It's more of a compilation album where people just rapping over their beats. Can't go wrong with this. This is Beatminerz, Brace for Impak, released in 2001. This album is actually out of print. Then we got Foxy Brown's 3rd album, Broken Silence, released in 2001. Dope album. Foxy Brown, I did a review for her, what album was that? The, what's that album? Il Na Na, that was released in 1996. And then, you know, in 1999, she released the China Doll album, which was horrible. This album, Cause you know China Doll was more for the commercials. It had like more of a commercial sound and stuff like that. She wanted to, I guess, explore her sound or whatever. Wanted to try new things. It didn't work out because the album sucked. And then 2 years later, she released this album, Broken Silence. This sounds like more. It has like a more street-oriented feel to it. This album only has 3 singles. Oh Yeah, with Spragga Benz, and at the time she was engaged with Spragga Benz. Shout out to Spragga Benz, dope reggae dancehall DJ artists, you know, but they call them DJs out there. Like I said, Oh Yeah, BK Anthem, which is like one of my favorite songs of that year, 2001, and Candy. If you like Foxy Brown, definitely must have your collection. To me, this is a step better than China Doll, you know what I mean? This is like definitely one of her best albums, and this album actually got nominated for a Grammy back in 2003, 2 years after its release, you know, so that tells you right there. Definitely a dope album, if you can find it, because this album's actually out of print, which is surprising, but what can you do? And also, she was supposed to come out with an album called El Nana 2, The Fever, but that album got shelved. But you can find it on the internet. You can download for free or whatever, or wherever you can find where you download your music at. It was leaked and stuff like that. And then like, I think in 2007, 2008, she released Brooklyn Don Diva. I didn't hear it. It was under Koch Records. I didn't hear the album, but she has the album out. But definitely must have your collection if you're a fan of Foxy Brown. Then we got my boy Necro, Gory Days, released in 2001. This was my first introduction to Necro. But for those who don't know who Necro is, he's an MC from Brooklyn, New York, from the Flatlands area / Canarsie area, to be exact. He's from Glenwood Projects, which is, like I said, the Flatlands Projects for my peoples that don't know about, you know, that area. Yeah, you know, he's of Jewish and Romanian descent. He got his start back in the mid '80s. He formed a group called Injustice, which was like a heavy death metal group. You know, his influences, like, you know, people like Slayer, Metallica, because he first started, you know, doing heavy metal music. But then later in the late '80s, his brother Ill Bill of non-fiction fame and La Coca Nostra fame, was rapping, and he got influenced by his brother. So in the late '80s, you know, he started looping records and doing, you know, the pause tapes and all that. And then throughout the '90s, he got his own equipment, started making his own beats. And what really got him noticed was his frequent appearances on Stressing by Beats or WKCR's radio station, where he would do like freestyles. He would bring like the whole crew, like, you know, Mr. Hyde, Carnage, Captain Carnage. What's good with Captain Carnage, man? Like, cause I've Necro as a friend on Facebook. I'm gonna ask him next time I go on Facebook. You know, Mr. Hyde, you know, the whole non-fiction crew. And then fast forward, and then he would release like, you know, 12 inches throughout the mid to late '90s. He made like 2 movies called 187 Reasons, and I think he made another one called The Devil Made Me Do It or something like that. Those you can find on YouTube, but they don't have sound because he couldn't afford the sound, but he filmed it, and like it's pretty dope. Like, if you're a hip hop head, especially for people that make beats, like, he used a lot of breaks, like known hip hop breaks and stuff like that. You guys would enjoy that. And in 2000, he released I Need Drugs, which I don't have in my collection, but I did hear it. And then the album gained a lot of critical acclaim in the underground hip hop circuit. And in 2001, they released this album. And when I was still living in New York, I saw a commercial for this album. I was like, oh, who's this guy, Necro? So like 2-3 years later, I found this album. I ordered it. I loved it since. This is the first Necro album I copped. But pretty dope album. The only singles I was known for is Bury You With Satan, which was like the biggest single, and I believe Morbid too. Pretty solid album. What's interesting about this album is the song number 4, Circle of Tyrants, with Mr. Hyde, Gore-Tex, and Ill Bill. Which and it's interesting because that song Circle of Tyrants, 4 years later they would release a group called Circle of Tyrants, self-titled, and they made an album out of that, and so I thought that was pretty interesting. As well as they are members not Phixion. The only person that's not in the song is Impak. You know what I mean? And pretty solid album. If you like Necro, you like hardcore hip hop, even though he doesn't like being labeled as a hardcore artist, but you know the shit that he talks about, I mean, you know, come on, you know what I mean? This is pretty New York underground hip hop at its finest. This is Necro, Gory Days, released in 2001, must-have collection. This album's actually out of print, so good luck finding it. Then we got Big Daddy Kane's 6th album, Daddy's Home, released in 1994. The only singles this album's known for is Show and Prove with Old Dirty Bastard, Shaheen, Jay-Z, Old Dirty Bastard, and Sauce Money. They have a video for that. I'll post a link down to the video. You know, pretty solid album. You know, Big Daddy Kane does some of the beats. He's a pretty dope producer. You know, he's not Easy Mobile or anything, but I mean, he does his thing. His style is kind of similar to Easy Mobile. He has like the sonic, like the sound of his beats is like kind of similar to Easy Mobile. LG does some of the production, who's Easy Mobile's brother, Easy Mobile himself, and among others too. I feel like this is an underrated album. I kind of feel like Big Daddy Kane's stuff that he did in the 90s gets very slept on, because a lot of people wanted him, people liked him from the stuff that he did in the 80s, like, you know, Long Live the Kane, and it's a Big Daddy Kane thing, and people wanted more of that. But then when he came out with Taste of Chocolate, Prince of Darkness, you know, people, like the hip hop heads wasn't feeling that shit. But like, you know, he had he was like an LL Cool J, you know, he had like a lot of female fans, you know, like he was doing like the love songs and stuff like that. But like I said before, the difference was LL and Big Daddy Kane, he was dope at it. But then when he came out those albums, you know, he saw the backlash from the real hip hop heads, and then he came out with his other album, It Looks Like a Job 4, which came out in '93, which is more of a street-oriented track, and that album didn't really, I mean, it got received well, but like around that time, like his popularity started, you know, dwindling down, because he was kind of, you know, alienating away, straying away from what he was mostly known for, you know, doing the love songs and stuff like that. But doesn't mean like, but he still had the lyrics, but you know, he just wanted to do something new. He wanted to please the, you know, the real hip hop heads, and that's what he did with this album. But by this time, like, his popularity started dwindling down, because by like '94, like, you know, you had the West Coast, you know, breaking noise and shit like that. You know, you had people like Black Moon, you had people like Mobb Deep wasn't really popular like that, but like, you had people like Wu-Tang and things of that nature. You know, the whole Digging in the Crates crew, making noise and stuff like that. And Big Daddy Kane just got lost in the sauce, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, you know what I mean? But I feel like this is an underrated album. This is a must-have in collection if you're a fan of Big Daddy Kane, if you're a fan of mid-90s hip-hop, if you're a fan of Easy Mobile, LG, and all those style of beats. Definitely Big Daddy Kane, Daddy's Home, released in 1994. So I was actually out of print. Go copy if you can find it. Sprocket Guys, by the way. Next album is Heltah Skeltah, their first album, Nocturnal, released in 1996. Heltah Skeltah is a group from Brooklyn, Brownsville to be exact, for South Road Projects. They got this start back in 1994. Their first appearance on Wax was on Smith & Wesson's The Shining album on 3 songs. One Time, Session at the Dog Hilly, and Let's Get It On, which was also a single. One Time was a single as well. And that's where they got noticed. And then that same year, they joined forces with original Gun Clappers, which I did a review on their first album, The Storm. They called themselves the Fab Five. They came out with one single called Blah. It did well, but they were supposed to make an album, but they didn't like. Sean Price was like, he wasn't feeling the stuff they was putting out like as a group because he felt it was whack. So that project got scrapped. And fast forward to 1996, you have this album. Singles this album was known for. Heltah Skeltah consists of members of Rock, Sean Price, and Rock. Rockness Monster, Rock. Singles this album was known for The Florida Fly Score Scout, which was the first video. Operation Lockdown, which they have videos for. The Wiggy and Therapy. If you're a fan of mid-90s hip-hop, you're a fan of Boot Camp Click, Black Moon, the Beatminerz back in the 90s, when they was known for making like dark beats, when they were still making dark beats, you would definitely enjoy this album. This is Heltah Skeltah, Nocturnal. Definitely one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. Definitely must have in your collection. Then we got 6 Feet Deep by Gravediggaz. Gravediggaz is a group which consists of members of Prince Paul, who was known as The Undertaker, Fuquan, who was known as The Gatekeeper, Too Poetic, who was known as The Grim Reaper, Doris' Soul, he died from colon cancer in 2001, and RZA from Wu-Tang, Resurrected. The group was brought up by Prince Paul, so a lot of people think that Gravediggaz is a Wu-affiliated group. They're not. It's a group made by Prince Paul. And so, this album, the interesting thing about this album was supposed to be called Niggamortis, but for obvious reasons they had to change the name of the title for the American public. But the European version, it kept the original title, and also in the European version or the original title, they have a song called Pass the Shovel. Dope track. I'll post out the link in the description box. It's a dope song. I don't know why they took it off the album because it fits the album. You know what I mean? Definitely. I feel like they're definitely one of the most influential groups in the whole horrorcore, genre and stuff like that. Whatchamacallit, 6 Feet Deep, singles this album is known for are Nowhere to Hide, 1-800 Suicide, and Diary of a Madman. What's interesting is that the song Diary of a Madman and Graveyard Chambers was their first appearance on Wax from both members of Sons of Man, Killer Priest and Shabazz Disciple. So you get to hear them for the first time on this album. I thought that's pretty interesting. Gravediggaz is definitely a must-have in your collection. If you're a fan of horrorcore, if you're a fan of Wu-Tang, if you're a fan of Prince Paul, what more can you say? This is a hip-hop classic. It's a shame that the world wasn't ready for this album. What can you do? You know what I mean? This is Gravediggaz 6 Feet Deep or Niggamortis, for lack of a better word. Definitely a must-have in your collection. If you're a fan of horrorcore, if you're a fan of Gravediggaz. Then we got the Deep Cover soundtrack, released in 1992. dope soundtrack, excuse me. It has a nice mix of R&B, reggae, and rap. Mostly West Coast hip hop. It's West Coast hip hop. Because the movie takes place in LA. Singles I was known for is Deep Cover with Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and they released a remix, or a sequel to the song called 187, 3 years later. And Mr. Loverman was also a single too by Shabba Rex. I just found out there was a song left off of Deep Cover called It's On with Lady of Rage and Snoop Dogg. I guess they got cut up because of sample clearances or whatever. But there's a leaked rare version on YouTube. I'll post it under the description box. It's pretty dope. But definitely, if you're a fan of the movie, if you're a fan of early 90s hip hop, R&B, things of that nature, you would definitely enjoy this album. This album's actually out of print, so good luck finding it. And we got my boy Inspectah Deck's first album, Uncontrolled Substance, excuse me. This was released in 1999. This album was actually supposed to be released back in 1997, but I'm pretty sure you guys heard about the infamous flood that happened in RZA's that happened back in the mid-90s. He lost over 100 beats, and some of the beats were pertaining on this album. He lost a lot of music from the flood, and so they had to redo over some of the songs, or do over all the songs and stuff like that. So this album was according to Wikipedia, it was recorded between the years of 1995 to 1997 to 1999. But like I said, the album was supposed to be released in 1997, but because of the flood, they had to redo the whole album. Very, very good album. Very slept on, very underrated. I slept on the album. I'm not gonna front, because I didn't even know the album came out. But when I saw it, I wasn't really big on it. I didn't really give it a chance. But I bought it a couple years later, and I fucking loved it. Since. Singles, I only had 2 singles. The singles are what are the singles? Word on the Street and Show and Prove. They both have videos. I'll post a link down to those videos. The album, it didn't really sell too well, but it's his most critically acclaimed album to date. It's his most known album, because the other ones like Resident Patient and The Movement and Manifesto, they were okay, but they're not topping this album. This is definitely a must-have in your collection. You're a fan of late 90s Wu, you're a fan of Wu-Tang, you're a fan of Inspectah Deck, late 90s East Coast hip hop, definitely enjoy this album. It's a must-have in your collection. Go copy it, find it. It shouldn't be too hard to find, but it's not out of print, so. And then the last song I'm gonna do for today is Non-Phixion's first album. The Future is now released in 2002. Non-Phixion consists of members of Ill Bill, Sabak Red, Gore-Tex, DJ Clips, and MC Search. They got their start back in 1994. They got discovered by MC Search. They teamed up. It was Sabak Red was affiliated with Sabak Red. You guys discovered. And then they all teamed up with DJ Clips and Ill Bill, and they became Non-Phixion. You would hear them on the radio stations, just doing freestyles and stuff like that. And then later on, Gore-Tex joined the group, and then they released their first single, Legacy, which was big in the underground hip hop circuit. And in 1997, they released Far Bros, which is another underground single. Then in 1998, they released I Shot Reagan, another underground single. And then fast forward to 2002, they released this album. They were supposed to come out with an album back in the late 90s, but they got turned down. from every record label because due to like miscommunication and stuff like that. So they got fed up, and then Ill Bill got fed up, and then he started his own record label, Uncle Howie. By the way, rest in peace, Uncle Howie. Started Uncle Howie Records, and they released this album in 2002. The only singles that I know this album has, well, I should say, four singles. There's four singles they have. Black Helicopters, Rock Stars, which they have a video for. I'll post a link down to that. Drug Music, and Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Pretty solid album. You would think because, you know, Ill Bill's, Necro's brother, they would rap about horrorcore shit, but they're not. They're more of a political group, you know. They talk about conspiracy theories and something similar to like Jedi Mind Trick. If you like Jedi Mind Trick, you would definitely enjoy this album. Unfortunately, they're disbanded. They were supposed to come out with another album called I forgot the name of it. What was after yeah, they were supposed to come out with an album called Nuclear Truth, but that never came to fruition because, you know, by the time of like 2003, 2004, Shabak Red, he moved to Oakland, California. Ill Bill, he started doing his own thing. Gore-Tex, he had to change his name. Well, he released an album called Art of Dying. Dope album. I don't have it, but it's definitely a must-have in your collection if you're a fan of Necro. He had to change his name to Super Coven because of there was rumors that the boot company Gore-Tex was was suing him for copyright infringement because of their name. And then, like, you know, things of that nature. And the reason why they broke up too is because they said, because from what I heard from interviews from Necro and Ill Bill and stuff like that, because Gore-Tex was going through creative differences with the group, and they didn't agree with it. They had a falling out, and that's what caused the whole breakup. But you know, like Ill Bill, Sabak Red, and DJ Clips, they still perform every once in a while, but not under non-fiction. They just perform, just to perform. You know what I mean? Definitely, if you're a fan of non-fiction, if you're a fan of Ill Bill, if you're a fan of underground hip hop, if you're a fan of Necro, if you're a fan of like New York underground hip hop in the early 2000s, late 90s, you will definitely enjoy this album. This is non-fiction. The Future is Now, released in 2002. Good luck finding this because I was actually out of print. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Peace. Stay tuned for more.